Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by SoundCloud Studios, brought to you by our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Me and Molson Z Missing, available on Amazon, coming soon, Missing 2 by Me and Molson Z on Amazon, double suspense, double the fun, check it out on Amazon. Also brought to you by Illumip, think tank for the future. The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, available on Amazon, keywords Sweet Psalmist, Serena Wagner, and High Time Music, check out the latest at hightimemusic.com. We're here with a terrific lady who's an author, psychotherapist, and professor at New Washington School of Psychiatry, and chair of the Intensive Short-Term Dynamic Psychotherapy, or ISTDP, and private practice for adult couples, and it offers a groundbreaking approach to healing from depression, anxiety, opioid dependence, and chronic pain, and also endured an unyielding headache that basically defied all remedies. We'll talk more about that. Has a new book out, which shares the unforgettable stories of three patients in intense therapy, serving as a testament to the power of intensive therapy, and basically just inviting to confront the depth and unspoken and unlocked profound transformation. The book is called What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist. Live, ladies and gentlemen, Plus Studios in beautiful downtown DC, Virginia area. The author, psychotherapist, and professor at New Washington School of Psychiatry, and also the book What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist. Ladies and gentlemen, multi-time Michelle May. Michelle, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Well, it's great to have you on board, Michelle. You're author, psychotherapist, and professor at New Washington State of Psychiatry, and chair of the Intensive Short-Term Dynamic Psychotherapy, or ISTDP. You also have a private practice for adults and couples. You offer a groundbreaking approach to healing from depression, anxiety, opioid dependence, and chronic pain. And you also endured a yielding headache that defied all methods. You have a new book that's sharing the unforgettable stories of three patients in intense therapy, serving as a testament to the power of intense therapy, and inviting to confront basically the depths of unspoken and written truths and unlocked profound transformation. The book is called What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist. And before getting on, Michelle, tell us how you first got started.
Tell you what, say that again.
Tell us how you first got started.
I became a therapist actually after a short detour as an IT consultant.
Oh.
So I knew I had always wanted to be a therapist since I was 19 years old after walking by a bookstore and seeing just a simple psychology book. But when I saw it, this image of me sitting across from clients, talking all day, deeply helping people behind what was behind the hidden door really appealed
Mm-hmm.
to me. So then I went to graduate school, and here I am. I have, like you said, a practice in Washington, D.C. and Arlington, Virginia for adults and couples.
Mm-hmm. And besides being a bookstore at 19 and discovering psychiatry, what was that other one precise moment that simply influenced you into what you're doing for the rest of your career?
Good question. I think that I remember I was struggling through some anxiety when I'm trying to think of how old I was. I believe I was maybe in eighth or ninth grade, so just going into high school.
Oh, wow.
Yep, and I had a friend just take me to a therapist for one session. And after this one session, I remember actually walking out and feeling relief.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I experienced the power of therapy. And I'm sure that planted a seed in my mind so that, 4 or 5 years later, when I was 19 years old at college at the University of Michigan, I'm sure that's why when I saw that book, it was an easier step for me to imagine doing this for a living and helping people feel the way that that therapist made me feel.
Mm-hmm. You talked about having anxiety around eighth or ninth grade. Where do you think it started, or what was the first cause of anxiety?
Yeah, I think at that time in my life, I was actually about to go to boarding school. So I was 14 years old and I was going to move away from home. And while I was excited about this, I don't think that I realized really how much of a change that was, how many emotions that I didn't realize I was having about it. So I believe that that was one of the reasons why anxiety started to show up at that time. And I really didn't have anywhere to go to talk about how I was feeling. And I didn't even actually really know how I was feeling, but it showed up in the form of anxiety.
Okay. All right. And then you also went through psychotherapy. And was there anyone that you could relate to, share at that time, or anything like that?
Well, I know when I went to boarding school, I was surrounded by a lot of love. A lot of people think of boarding school as being kind of a cold, sad place. But in my
Hmm.
case, I went to an absolutely incredible boarding school. It was all girls. I think that helped the situation. But yeah, I was surrounded by friends and wonderful faculty, and so I think that that also helped me a lot. But I really, my whole life changed really, and I ended up needing a lot of support and help when I was 22 years old and I woke up in the middle of the night with a headache that did not go away for the next 6 years.
Oh my gosh. And you tried just about every remedy possible.
I tried just about every remedy possible. I mean, everything from acupuncture to different medications to different procedures and even surgical procedures. And the only thing that helped me in that 6 year time before the final brain surgeries that actually healed my condition were opioids. So, opioids I have a different relationship with than you hear a lot of people having, which was one where if opioids really actually saved me. I don't know if I'd be sitting here today if I didn't have the pain relief that they offered during those
Hmm.
6 years. I wouldn't have been able to apply to graduate school. I would not even be able to really get out of bed. So they were a very big help to me.
Hmm. And of course, opioid abuse have been the number one subject along with PTSD and everything along those lines. And what are some of the misconceptions about opioids? You hear about, it's bad, it's addictive, and people steal just to get a hold of it and everything. What are some of the misconceptions that you want to clear up about opioids?
Yeah, I think we don't talk enough about those that, I mean, first of all, there is an appropriate amount of attention on opioids. We really need to, control it. We really need to offer treatment. We really need, a lot of people are suffering greatly and need a lot of help. And opioids have actually caused more problems than they've solved. But what we don't talk about are the people like me who needed them in order to get through life. And in my case, I'm actually one, amazingly enough, I'm one of the lucky ones who found a cure through this brain surgery that I mentioned, but also intensive dynamic psychotherapy. But for those that struggle with chronic pain that have yet to find pain relief, that have yet to find what is causing it, for those that are using prescription opioids appropriately, according to the doctor's label, as suggested, this is really what they can be for, and this is actually a very helpful thing to people. So this is the category of people that I fall into. And I remember being constantly afraid that my doctors were going to kind of pull the plug and say, nope, none for you. And thankfully, they never did. Also, thankfully, I always used them according to, doctor's orders, made sure that I didn't just keep taking more and more and more and more and more. But still ended up on a lot of opioids. But again, thank goodness they really helped me until they didn't, until I realized that actually my relationship to them had started to shift. And at that
Hmm.
point, I did something about it.
Hmm. And what's the one bit of advice you want to tell people right now who are stuck on opioids, can't get out of the cycle, destruction, and everything like that? What is the one piece of advice or several tips you can offer to get off of opioids once and for all, and especially get rid of the pain? It's like killing two birds with one stone.
Right, yeah, because it's quite cruel to actually take away somebody's prescription medications when you have not found the cause or treated the cause. So for those that were like me, that have an unspecified source of pain that it keeps going, that there are actually ways that you can find out what is causing your pain. So you don't want to go to a doctor for chronic pain that actually only an intensive dynamic psychotherapist can treat. And you, of course, don't want to go to a therapist for an issue only a doctor can treat. So for those of us that have been turned away by doctors that have, walked out feeling hopeless after years and years and years and years, or even months and months, that actually there is a type of and types of psychotherapy that can help people in chronic pain, such as intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy, pain reprocessing therapy. There's actually books and literature that can actually help you with your pain. So there is hope. There just might not be hope where you're used to looking for it, which is in a doctor's office.
And of course, you brought up the quite a few types of therapy, and also you'll offer a groundbreaking approach to healing from depression and more as well. Talk about that with Michelle May and the book What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. It takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia's got great reviews. And Evil Evan George by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today. 4 Girls Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out Missing 2 coming up on Amazon by Mia Molson-Zia. Double suspense, double the fun. Check it out on Amazon. Also, Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Illumnifically, think tank of the future, bring scientists and engineers together from all over the world, create a method to construct a renewable generator. This unique product operates on a closed-loop system, generating more energy internally that needs to function. The extra electricity can be used to run everything: homes, power grids, phones, laptops. The power source is renewable, highly scalable, most importantly, self-regenerating. Visit facebook.com/Illumnical. That's ELLUMENIPTICAL today. Also, Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David, including 30 exquisite paintings in King David's Psalms. The Sweet Psalmist gives a new perspective of David through the Psalms he wrote and his time as a shepherd where it started, and complicate yet turbulent relationship with King Saul. It's a story of love, betrayal, repentance, hope, and more. Check out the Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner on Amazon. Keyword Sweet Psalmist Serena Wagner. Also brought to you by High 10 Music, featuring the smash hit Baby Comeback. New music coming soon. Check it out, high10music.com. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, 40 podcast platforms, heard in a country, support us on Anchor FM, PayPal, and themikewagnershow.com. Take us with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to us on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Spreaker, and more. iHeart. For great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Be sure to check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast, t-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies, makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books, merchandise, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia today. Check it out. We're here with author, psychotherapist, and professor at New Washington State of Psychiatry, Michelle May, here on the Mike Wagner Show. Before we go on with the book, What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist, and you also chair up the intense short-term dynamic psychotherapy, and also you had some other therapies I was trying to get a hold of some as well too. Let's talk about the ISTDP. I think we're all into abbreviations right now, like LOL or everything like that. I think everything is all abbreviations as well too. So instead of IDK, we can say IK on this one. So tell us more about the intense short-term dynamic psychotherapy, its process and the approach and everything else.
Sure. So ISTDP, you're right. That's easier to say, but still a mouthful. Intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy. It's the term short term in there is a little misleading. It really just means that we are going to try to do things without wasting any of your time. So it's not about hurry, hurry, hurry. It's more of just let's get down to business. It's not your, oh, well, how was your week? Oh, how are you? That kind of therapy. It is not like that. Instead, it is meant, the therapist is trained to get to the heart of the matter as quickly as possible, while helping the client remain feeling safe in their body, but still doing things that are challenging and will lead to growth. So we are, it's not an easy method to learn. It takes at least 3 years of a postgraduate program. So after graduate school, you do something called a core training for at least 3 years. And then, really everybody that I know that is very serious about it really gets into the position of a lifelong learner. So, yes, it is, like I said, designed to get to the heart of the problem as quickly as possible. So we therapists are trained to notice the different types of anxiety that are happening in somebody's body so that we can tell whether to head towards what the client usually avoids and has difficulty with, or whether to kind of back away and help them understand and look at things cognitively. We help the clients see the strategies that they use that unfortunately are actually leading to their problems. And we help them face what they normally avoid that makes them anxious and use these strategies normally. So we're really helping to get to the cause, the core of the problem, rather than just kind of talking about, potential solutions and problem solving.
Mhm. And how long has that been around?
Well, it started to be developed in about, I believe, 1960 by Dr. Habib Davelu, who was a Canadian from Iran. And he started to get frustrated with the way that psychoanalysis took a lot of people's time. At that time, typically psychoanalysis was, every single day, 5 days a week, for the rest of your life. And Dr. Davinlu said there must be a way to get to these inner core unconscious dynamics and conflicts much, much quicker. So he actually ended up videotaping hours and hours and hours and hours of his sessions so that he could study and understand body language, unconscious signals and messages, so that the therapist can learn to, again, get to the heart of the matter. So it's been developing in many different ways. Dr. Alan Abbas, John Fredrickson, Patricia Coughlin have all helped expand the populations that ISTDP can be used for. And so at this point, it's now really, because it's so hard to learn, it's been difficult to catch on. But now, the community is doing a better job of also sharing more resources with the general public. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist, is so that this more complicated method can be distilled into language that, we can actually learn from on a wider level.
You also talked about the other types of therapy as well, too. There was peace something, and I was trying to catch that third one that you did as well, too. Explain the second and third. If there's others, you can also talk about as well.
Sure. So, there's several different types of ways in which pain is created. And so there's several different types of therapies that help target the cause of that pain. Within ISTDP, we have several different ways of targeting multiple different causes of pain. But there's this totally separate type of psychotherapy that still can fit in to an ISTDP therapist's, practice, but it's called pain reprocessing therapy. And that kind of therapy is used when pain is caused by the brain and body getting confused about when it's actually in danger and therefore should be feeling pain. So, for example, my headaches were caused by several different things. So, I needed several different treatments. One of the causes of my pain was what we call neuroplastic pain, or pain that is something that the body has learned to do and continues to do, even though there's no longer a problem. So, for example, I actually would get headaches years after my headaches stopped. I would get headaches every single time I went to the doctor's office because it
Hmm.
had just equated the two.
Is
Um,
that similar to PTSD in a way?
so different, your body can learn to signal danger when there's no danger. And that is an overlap to PTSD. So for example, if you've been in war and then you hear fireworks, right, your body might have the same reaction. So yes, it's kind of like the trigger has changed, but the body doesn't really know that, or the trigger has gone away and the body doesn't really know that. So, but neuroplastic pain is really, oh, my body is still sending pain signals to my brain that there's a problem in my hip, but there no longer is. And so pain reprocessing therapy helps you
Hmm.
unlearn that pathway, that
So,
pathway to pain.
so in other words, it's pretty much getting rid of the here we go again type of stage.
Exactly. Yep. It's
Okay, got
basically,
it.
yep, helping your body say, wait, no, there's no more danger here.
Okay, got that. I was trying to understand that part about it as soon as PTSD, and I think you also mentioned the others as well too. And this is really interesting for those who are going through therapy and PTSD and everything. This is a must listen on that one.
Yep,
So,
and it's just good to know that there are so many options out there. Again, for those of us that have felt like there's no hope to cure their chronic pain, it's important to know there's so many causes of chronic pain. You are one person who could have five different causes of pain in the same area, but there are professionals that can help you.
and also too, anxiety is also another common as well too. And maybe you can explain the misconception of anxiety as well too. And you have like a totally different concept of it.
Yeah, so what we don't realize is that we think anxiety is worry and rumination and thought processes. And actually that those are not signs of anxiety. Anxiety is purely in the body. So body tension, IBS, nausea, acid reflux, any kind of gastrointestinal issues. It could even be dizziness, foggy thinking, ringing in the ear. Those things aren't always anxiety, but they're often anxiety. And so anxiety is just a physical symptom in the body. And what is a common misconception is that it isn't normal. So, for example, right now, I'm kind of just ever so slightly playing with my pen in my hand, and that's a sign of a low level of anxiety, or someone listening to this in the car, right? Exactly. Yes, yes, exactly. Right.
Or I can go
So,
like this, like Groucho Marx back in the days.
yeah, right.
Or
It's
Johnny
it
Carson, or like the late night talk show host. So,
these are little anxiety moments, right? So someone listening to this might be gripping the steering wheel harder than they realize, or have tension in their back they don't realize.
or
So exactly, right, exactly. Yep, neck tension, exactly. So we don't realize that you don't have to have an anxiety disorder to be having anxiety. It's just a very normal thing. The question is, to what degree do you have it, and what kind of problems is it causing? So, for example, if I have a little bit of head tension every now and then, that might not be a big deal. But if I have head tension all the time, I might then get tension headaches and think I might have a brain tumor when actually I just have anxiety in the form of head tension. But of course, it's always important to get a rule out from a doctor. But so often it's actually caused by our relationship to our inner world and our emotions.
and I think that's really important as well too. In fact, some people mask the symptoms, like say, oh, I'm having heart problems. No, this is not going to happen to me. Or you try to find a way to cover up and everything like that. You may not admit to you're lying to yourself, but then like the other person, how do you know you're lying to yourself or lying to somebody?
It's true, because it's very hard to tell, because when we grow up in environments that didn't accept certain parts of our humanity, like a certain opinion that we had, or a certain proclivity, or a certain emotion, when we grow up in environments that don't look kindly upon those things, we learn to get rid of those parts of ourselves. And in that way, we can say we kind of learn to lie to ourselves about who we are, what we feel, and what's inside of us. But then, of course, we can't actually get rid of these parts of ourselves. And that's why we get things like anxiety, or we start to use strategies to try to get these unwanted parts out of our awareness. And those are the ways we can learn how we lie to ourselves. We can notice, wow, I have headaches a lot. Or, oh, wow, the doctor hasn't found anything wrong with my intestines, but I keep having these stomach problems. Or nothing's wrong with me, but I get dizzy every time I go over to my mom's house for dinner. Those are little signs and symptoms that tell us that we're not being very honest with ourselves, that there's something in our unconscious that we're not yet aware of, that we can unearth and face, and therefore then get relief from our anxiety and other
hmm
symptoms.
So in other words, it's safe to say, or somewhat safe to say, wishful thinking isn't really that great.
No, it isn't. No, or like fake it till you make it. That's a common thing people say too, right? And fake it till you make it and wishful thinking can sometimes be helpful, but it's usually not in the long run.
Mhm. Or it's like hold your anger, hold your tongue, or even like say, big boys don't cry, stand up like a
Oh,
man, suck it up, buttercup, everything
so
like that.
harmful.
That has been getting like just broken down over the years. And now it's just like it's finally coming to light that it's okay to do it. But back in the day, it's like if you're hurting inside, it's like suck it up or hold back the tears, hold back anger and everything else. And now it's proven to get to be pretty other way around.
Yeah, exactly right. And thank goodness, right, that the children that are being born now are being born more into an environment are less likely to, they're less likely to be told that now. Right. We, like you said, we now realize that, oh my gosh, holding your emotions causes massive problems such as chronic pain, substance abuse problems, relationship difficulties, depression, anxiety, and more.
Hmm. And certainly as well too. And of course, besides the groundbreaking approach to healing from depression, anxiety, opioid dependence, and everything, and you also have the book, The Sharing Unforgettable Stories of Three Patients. And who are they? We'll find out just when we met with Michelle May and what I couldn't tell my therapist. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios, brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author me and Molson C. Missing. Also brought to you by Luminiscally, Think Tank of the Future, The Sweet Psalmist by Serena Wagner, based on the life of King David on Amazon, and High Time Music. Check out the latest at hightimemusic.com. We'll be back with author, psychotherapist, and professor at New Washington School of Psychiatry, Michelle May, with What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist after this time out. We're back with author Michelle May of What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist here on the Mike Wagner Show. And of course, we covered about the groundbreaking approaches to breaking opioid dependence, getting rid of anxiety, healing from depression, everything. Now, this new book shares the unforgettable stories of three patients in intensive therapy. And who are those three? Let's hear about it.
So the three patients are two of my own patients well, we're naming Walter and Emma. Of course, all details have been changed for confidentiality purposes. And the third patient is actually myself. So I decided to weave in my own story with that of two of my patients because essentially what I'm trying to help people see, what causes our anxiety, what causes depression, what causes and cures these things as well, what is not just like a me thing or just an Emma thing or just a Walter thing, but like a we thing. It's a you and me thing. And so all three of us have some similarities and we have some differences, but the whole book really covers an incredibly large spectrum of issues. Everything from marital problems, intimacy issues, trouble meeting people and dating, skin picking, cannabis use, opioid dependence, perfectionism, people pleasing, depression. I mean, the list goes on and on. So this book really has a little bit for everyone. But the commonalities are the most important, which is the fact that almost all of our symptoms and struggles were caused by um, these strategies that we all learned, or what's also known as defense mechanisms, these defense mechanisms that we used to try to get rid of pieces of ourselves that weren't acceptable to either our culture, society, or people who brought us up and gave us care. So this is a really human thing because we're born to adapt and attach. But then unfortunately, let's say if, your father doesn't like your anger, and it's really important to be attached to our fathers, especially when we're young, we then have to be adaptive and learn how to get rid of those parts. And so Emma, Walter, and I, and the vast majority of people all did this to ourselves and then found ourselves, unfortunately, needing to adapt once more.
Hmm. And certainly as well too that Walter confronts the shadow of crippling depression and intimate attachment to cannabis, and then he got Emma yearning for relationships, timing by a haunting fear of vulnerability, and also you being dedicated psychotherapist, struggling with addiction, people pleasing, perfectionism, and mysterious chronic pain. And it seems like it sounds like in a sense, in a surface, it's a love triangle, but then it's like you kind of have like this relationship of three, and it kind of demystifies the whole thing as well. So you can just break it down that how do three just all come together, work out, everything like that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And of course, some of the things you think about with what I couldn't tell a therapist. What are some of the things that are most in common you couldn't tell a therapist?
Well, the title has a couple of different meanings. Of course, it has the obvious meaning of there's a conscious secret right? That we know we have, that we do not share because we might have shame or embarrassment, or we think that it will betray someone that we love. So all three of us struggle to be completely honest with our therapists about, say, how we really feel about our family because we're so afraid of hurting their feelings or making them look bad. And we really don't realize that it's actually safe to tell a therapist. And a good therapist is not going to go on a blaming spree, with all of your loved ones. But more importantly, the title, What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist, refers more to that which we can't even tell ourselves, and therefore we can't communicate it to our therapist. So, for example, I couldn't tell my therapist that my relationship to opioids was actually no longer helping me. I didn't know. I couldn't tell my therapist that part of my headaches were caused by repressed rage because I didn't know. So Emma couldn't tell me that part of her problem was that, she loved her family so much that she couldn't feel her anger. She felt too guilty about it. So it really, the title, What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist, refers to that which is unspoken to us, ourselves, between us and us, and that which we don't want to speak to our therapist because we don't realize it's okay. We don't realize that we're safe. We don't realize that it will actually help us to be open about that which we usually keep to ourselves.
Hmm. And sometimes I also sense too that some people will say the wrong thing, which they meant to say the correct thing, or they'll look back and say, why did I say that? Or change it. And sometimes you get that a lot, like with conflict. Like, say you had rage because, something happened to what your mom did to you. Then you look back, it's like, no, it wasn't. It was my brother, or it was my sister, or, whatever it is. Like, is that rather common, or how does that get corrected? That's the one concern I had, kind of talking to people, like they'll tell me what's the real reason. They look back, it's like, wait a minute, I didn't mean to say that. Or it's like, I wasn't correct, wasn't sure, everything like that. So it's like, how does that get corrected?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, it's actually not that common. That's really, really good. If you're going slow and you're following the body and you're not rushing ahead to conclusions as the therapist or the client, but especially the therapist, that actually should happen pretty rarely. But in the cases that it does, I mean, this just happened to me recently where I was talking to someone and it was pretty clear that, what was troubling her was A. And then as I'm repeating A back to her, she goes, wait a minute. No, no, actually I just realized something. It's this other thing. And it was like, okay, wonderful. So, if it happens that quickly, great. But yes, every now and then it's rare. Someone comes back and they say, you know what, I thought about it and I kind of want to adjust that. That's perfectly fine. And we just give a lot of room to that. And then also every now and then someone comes back and they say, you know what, I want to adjust that because I didn't like the way that sounded. And I
That's
have to
rather
say,
common. That has happened to a number of people.
yeah, and sometimes I have to say to somebody, is it that it's not true or you don't like the way it sounded? Because sometimes people aren't used to talking out loud and they don't realize, for example, let's say someone says, gee, I just realized that I really enjoy being mean to my mother because I'm so mad at her. And then later they realize they've said something that they actually feel guilty about and they kind of wish they've unsaid it, but it's still true. And you actually have to help people bear realities, even if they don't want them to be true.
Got it. Okay. We're trying to get clear up that misconception, having like say, oh wait, I did this, I did that, and everything like that. And of course, just another thing as well, too, that basically how can we help in this whole thing?
What do you mean?
Like how can we help?
We meaning as the client?
Well, basically to confront these problems like opioid dependence, anxiety, how to get help and everything like that. What can people learn from this experience? Three people involved,
Hmm.
transformation. What can we learn from it? And how can we potentially help one person if they need that type of help?
Yeah. So if we know somebody else who's struggling in these ways, is that what you mean?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, if we know somebody else who's struggling in these ways, we first can ask ourselves, is it appropriate that is it okay to have a kind of relationship with them where we say something like that that's personal? Because it might be in a work situation where it might not be. But I would say it almost always is. And we can say things such as, in a private and of course, safe environment, we can say, I've noticed that you seem to be struggling or you're calling out of work a lot, or if it's a friend, I've noticed that you cannot stop talking about your ex and that you haven't been going out and you actually seem really depressed. Have you considered talking to somebody? Do you have a support network? Is there anything that I can do to help you? Because I see you and I care about you. So that is often a way that you can do it. It doesn't mean it will be received well. It doesn't mean the person thinks you should or should not have said it, but you can't really control that. So yeah, just asking, do you have a support network? Sometimes if you have specific recommendations for a therapist, that can be a very helpful thing. Um, but yeah, usually it's just bringing attention to it and saying, I see you and I care about you.
Okay, that's a good thing to mention as well. What about helplines like 211 or even that the new suicide line helpline 988?
Yeah, all of that is so fantastic. There are such great resources. I mean, and there's way more, right? There's so many free resources. For example, the National Alliance um, of Mental Illness, NAMI, I believe that's their full name, but NAMI, for example, has a free hotline that you can call to just talk to somebody about, what kind of help you need. So someone might call in and say, my son's bipolar, I need help, do you have any resources? So yeah, hotlines like that are such a fantastic resource that we have. So definitely reaching out in that way is
Okay.
is really fantastic.
And what's the number for NAMI?
What is the number for NAMI? Let me see. I actually don't know. That would take me a couple moments to look up.
Oh, that's okay. I think I can probably join as well too. Thank
Okay.
God for social media and
I
numbers.
know.
Well, now's a good time to be checking your media and everything like that here on the Mike Wagner Show. While we're doing that, it's powered by Sonic Web Studios, and let me know if you get this right here. And it's also brought to you by me and Molson Z of Amazon, available on Amazon paperback and ebook. And let's see, find your local NAMI, the helpline, and I'm trying to
I
let's
actually
see.
found it.
Okay,
It is 1-800-950-6264. And that 6264 stands for NAMI. So it's 1-800-950-NAMI, NAMI, or 6264.
got it. Okay, now we know the number to call in case anybody needs help.
Yep.
We're with author Michelle May of Why Couldn't Tell My Therapist in the Mike Wagner Show. I forgot to ask this question. Where can we find your book at and all your works?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can buy What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist at really anywhere you like to buy your books, whether it's your local bookstore, online, Amazon, bookshop.org. They support local small bookstores, which is fantastic. So, and it is also available on your e-reader on Kindle. You can find me and more trainings and resources, more information on intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy, for example, on my website, which is michellemmaylpc.com. That's Michelle with two L's, M, my middle initial, May as in the month, LPC as in licensed professional counselor. So that's michellemmaylpc.com. And then you can also find me on Instagram. I actually have a resource there where you can learn about all the different types of anxiety and different defense mechanisms. And I give little clinical scenarios where you can kind of learn how to spot this stuff yourself. And that's the exact same name. It's Michelle M. May LPC. That's my Instagram handle.
All right, well, certainly check that out. Use the resources as much as you can. It's here for you as well. We're with author Michelle May of What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist here on the Mike Wagner Show. Just a few more things, Michelle. What else can we expect in 2025 and beyond?
Oh, great question. I have a hard time imagining that I will not write a sequel to What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist. So
Ah, darn.
no, I mean, I probably will. I probably will write a sequel to it, but that not yet. I have a couple other projects in mind. For example, For what I couldn't tell my therapist, I'm thinking about writing a workbook that people can actually interact with while they're going through the book so they can process their emotions, learn more about themselves. So that's probably what's next. And then also maybe a book for therapists that help them learn intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy, kind of the basics of it. So, and then also lots of trainings. Talks and more outreach to try to get this into people's lives so that they can help find the help that they need.
All right, well, certainly check that out. We encourage you to use resources as much as possible. Who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Oh my goodness, that's such a good question. You know, there's a couple of different names that come to mind, but one of them is Irvin Yalom. Yalom is famous for some of his texts on group therapy, but also really for his other literature, Love's Executioner. But really, I'm thinking about a book called The Gift of Therapy, and it's the very first book that I read when I first started to be a therapist, and it was so inspiring. And so when you first asked me that, his name popped up into my mind as really somebody that just gave me so much excitement and access and feeling into this work and into this job. So he's one person that comes to mind. And then I mentioned these names earlier, but John Frederickson and Patricia Coughlin are two incredible authors, teachers, therapists. And they have influenced me probably even way more than Irvin Yalom.
That is certainly amazing. A testament to that. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
My goodness. Get your own definition of fulfillment. Don't strive for happiness and see if being dishonest with yourself in any way is keeping you from that fulfillment. And I think if you drive towards that, you'll live a good life.
That is very good advice as well, too. Just totally amazing. We're here with the author Michelle May of What I Couldn't Tell, my therapist here on the Mike Wagner Show. Michelle, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. Once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase? Check out your book and check out your works.
Yeah, so you can purchase What I Couldn't Tell My Therapist anywhere you get your books, Amazon, bookshop.org. Just type it into Google, you'll find it. You can find me on Instagram at Michelle M. May LPC, and you can find me on my website at michellemmaylpc.com. That's Michelle with two L's, M. May is in the month, and then LPC is in licensed professional counselor.
All right, well, we'll certainly check that out. Once again, Michelle, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We love to have you back. We wish all the best. And Michelle, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you so much for having me on, Mike.